Hi there, this is Popo, I hope you're fine. Welcome back to the Matches Neuro Tournament, round 3. And today we're going to review the two games played between Alexander the Wanderer and CommanderXar. So let's get started. Okay, so for the first game, Alexander the Wanderer gets the white pieces with the Humans faction, and CommanderXar gets the black pieces with the Goblins faction. The Humans faction is basically classic chess, but this is the maximum range faction, so very tricky in the endgame. Also, please note that the pawns are the only one on this faction that can promote to queens, but the knight don't have any power compared to the other faction, so they would be the weakest knights you can find on the game. On the other hand, the goblins would go for the kill here. You don't see because we are in analyze mode, but normally the king has a heart with 12 lives on them, and once it gets checked, every time it gets checked, it would lose 1 life. So once the total drops to 0, it lost the game. And you'll see that all the pieces go forward to the king and towards the king very quickly. So you have to be careful and you're not safe. The game starts with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, knight to f3, croc to c6 and bishop to b5. Dirly Lopez is on the board. Here we have pawn to a6, the Murphy's defense, but now we have bishop captures c6, pawn captures c6 and knight to e5. Here maybe you can try to continue the game with this kind of move here, but okay, after this there's this and this is not really clear what happens after all the stuff. Here you don't want to leave the knight hanging, but with something here right on the middle of the board, it takes some time to replace it correctly because you can be pinned. So maybe CommanderXar didn't want to run into this, or maybe he never experienced this kind of line because he played pawn to f6. Kicking the knight, and after knight it goes back to f3, we have Gremlin to d6. Okay, the game continues with pawn to d4, so the center is taken, and now the Croc slides to f7. See, the Croc can slide one square in the direction of the enemy king in passive mode, so very cool stuff. So Croc to f7 tries to control a little more here, and threats to castle. So now we have bishop to d2, troll to e7, knight to c3 defending, pawn to a5, doing something. I mean, the idea is to put the Gremlin here, pawn to a3, Gremlin a6, short castle, and rook to b8. Okay, the game continues so far. Now we have knight to a2. I guess the idea here is to just remove this pawn, and I have to say this is not that easy to defend this pawn, so okay, interesting move. Maybe you try to counterattack with this kind of move, and maybe after rook goes here, you try to trade the stuff, I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea here. Maybe you should focus on the attack, and maybe try to come to short castle and then go for something and let the pawn be taken, I don't know. But here, I don't know, for some reason, we have a troll takes e4, which is of course a very bad move, because it allows rook to e1, and this is full range, and somehow you forget when you play in matches that there are some factions which are full range. So for example, range 4 is just this kind of stuff, so you run here, but here this is completely pinned to the king. So okay, this is right dead. So we have troll to e7, and now a rook captures, and a gremlin captures on e7. Now we have queen to e2, and it threats to capture here, so this is only range 3, but with the full range you can lose this piece, so you have to do something. And now we have the counter threat with Gremlin to b5, but now we have pawn to c4, creaking back the Gremlin. The Gremlin should have gone here and try later to get somewhere else. Going here is a little risky, because it's not doing anything on the game, and later on if you have this very correct stuff, and then you can just make it dead. Or even, I don't know, I try to find to something else, but I don't see. Maybe you can try to threat later with the knight, it gets a tempi, or maybe this is right now. We have rook to e1 instead, and okay, it threats to capture, and now how are you going to defend this? because you don't have any good piece. You can try to slide the Croc to e6, but after, let's say, a pawn to d5, so now the Croc is threatened one more time, maybe you're going to slide it one more time on e5, but after captures, captures, and captures, there's no way you're going to defend this, so you have to give up the piece. So in this position, we have a short castle, and now the queen takes, and the humans are up 7 points of material. You're very dead loss here. So rook to d8 is played to try avoiding this pawn from being taken. And now we have a bishop captures a5, capturing the pawn. Maybe you should get a little more aggressive here, I don't know. I should have gone for knight to c3 here, and after, let's say, you decide to play this move, then I wouldn't going to go for maybe for the capture here, or maybe trying to go here for the big strike, I don't know. I have a lot of things to do here in this kind of position, and so I don't know. But the bishop captures a5 is cool because it tries to capture here, but remember that there is a counter move which Croc to g6 here, so you have to retreat the queen, maybe you retreat the queen to b4, and now let's say after Gremlin to c2, then you can continue the game and try to see how it goes. So maybe you finally capture here, and let's say after decide to move here, then maybe you put the bishop to d6, and that would threat the rook, which move maybe here, and then the game continues, and you try to get somewhere deeper into the position. But instead in the game we have bishop captures c7 immediately, so giving up the queen, but this is for the transformation, I guess, and after captures, 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 and captures, okay, the advantage of white is little less better, but this is still an advantage. You're piece up, and you have a very nice pawn belt, so you're going to make something out of it. We have a king to f8, kicking back the rook, which goes back to e2. We have a big gremlin to b3, so this is a fork here, attacking 2 spots at once. The knight goes to b4, we have a gremlin captures, rook to c2, gremlin to d5, knight captures, pawn captures, and rook to c5. This pawn can't be defended, so we have rook to b8, rook captures, rook to b7. I'm just going to skip forward the moves because everywhere is winning here. Even if you think that you can trap it, remember that they can be taken this way. So everything is taken, and this is a very long endgame where everything is going to get here. We have an interesting position here because the rook can check the king like a queen by 3. So if he gets here, now you get some problems here. So this is defended with rook to g5, and now are you going to give up this? I mean, the exchange is full. If you decide, for example, to play, I don't know, this move, then this is going to be captured with check, and after, let's say, the king decides to run here, you're going just to play that, and this pawn's gonna fall. So here, rook captures, knight captures, and now you go for the pawns. Here you can't really play this move because white is going to play a pawn to a5, and after captures, then this goes up to queen. So king to c6 is played, pawn to f4, pawn to d5, knight to e6, pawn to g6, pawn knight to f8, king to d6, knight captures. You capture here, and now you let the knight be taken because you want a queen. There's a first queen on the board, there's a second queen on the board, and now after king to e6, you have to find the mate in 2. Of course, this is not seen. The mate in 2 goes with queen to e5 with check, and after, let's say, the king runs here, you just have to play queen a to e8, and this is checkmate. But this is not seen, and we have queen to c8 with check, and now king to f5 is played. Now the question is, do you find the mate in 1? The mate in 1 is just with queen to f4 checkmate, so this is not seen, and we have queen to f8 check, and now we have king to g5. Now the question is that, do you find the mate in 2? The mate in 2 is again with queen to f4 check, king to h5, and now queen to h6 is checkmate. Okay, now we have queen to c1 instead, which is played. We have king to g6, and now this is mate in 2, and this is played queen to g1 check, king to h7, and queen to g7, each checkmate. I mean, everything was winning here, and the CommanderXar decided to play the game until the end, so thanks for him. This is very brave. So this is on this move 61 that we have the checkmate, and yeah, unfortunately this troll blunder just killed the whole game, and you see that in the end game where the humans are up, you're going to lose it anyway, so you can straight up resign here. So we're going to see now the second game, so let's get to it now. Okay, so for the second game, now CommanderXar gets the white pieces with the Mandrake's faction, and Alexander the Wanderer gets the black pieces with the Genies faction. The Mandrake are focused on the center of the board and also the coordination between pieces, but not in the way you understand. If the pieces are touching each other, you're going to see that they become stronger. But the abilities of the piece would be triggered depending on the time of the day, technically, because every 5 turns would switch between daytime and nighttime. So some of the pieces would awaken there, some of the pieces wouldn't. So we're going to see how it goes. For the Genies faction, they play with the bounce of the board. They can bounce of it, they can travel through the bounce of the board as the board was cylindrical, so from one way to another, they can do a lot of stuff. Basically, these two factions are very hard to explain, but we're going to see on the board how it goes. The game starts with pawn to e4, we have pawn to e5, pawn to d3, and we already have a threat here. If you do nothing and play, for example, the very normal looking move lamb to f6, this pawn is dead. Why? Because this is nighttime, and on nighttime, the nymph can take any piece surrounding the chain of piece created by the touching pieces. So we can slide it here, 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 and capture there. See? If there wasn't this pawn here, let's say the move before, he couldn't because this is not connected to the chain, so you can't. So very interesting that after this, he creates a threat. So this is answered with lamb to c6, but now we have chomp to f3, adding pressure, so pawn to d6 is pretty forced here, and we have the dryad going to e3. We have pawn to h6 and chomp to c3, and after vizier to e6, this is daytime. So now the dryad can decide to move to d5, and this seems completely crazy. But let me explain you. I told you this is the focus on the center of the board. Dryad can decide on the daytime to go on any square on the same color square on the center ranks. 5 ranks, excuse me. I always forget. But this is only for passive move, not capturing. So it decides to go on d5, and now this is a double threat here. So here in this position we have lamb to a5 trying to buy a tempo here, and this is actually an interesting tempo because on the sides the lamb also can decide to move like a knight by 3, I don't know how to say it, like a camel in fairy chess. So you have to defend this pawn, but actually you can decide not to. If you decide to take here, let's say that you take back here, then first you can play here, and this is check, so this has to be captured by the king, of course. And here you can play a very simple move, b1, and now you have to retreat. Only problem here is that you're not on the edge of the board, so basically your piece is trapped. So maybe you go here, then you're going to be captured. So in no way you can take this. So here in this position you could have taken, but somehow they got intimidated here, and we have pawn to b3 which is played. So with big happiness, the vizier retreats on d7. And now this dryad is not well placed, so you should place it on some better square here. And you're going to see that this is not that simple, because on any square you decide to put it, there are pawns on the way to crush you. So maybe you could try to go with pawn to b4, and let's say you decide to remove this maybe here after let's say captures, and captures, just maybe to precise. Here on daytime, the chomp can captures on the full center square, so this is why captures, and then you would have the way out. So here maybe you would be forced to go back here, and then you can put the dryad on b3. But you don't have to waste any time. But we have short castle instead, which is played, and now lamb to f6, going for a trade, I mean, but pawn to a4 is played. And here, again, you have to do something here, because the dryad seems to be trapped. We have pawn to a6 and now ball to e1, and we run into a pretty difficult position, because pawn to c6 is played. Before, you could have tried to capture here on e5. Why? Because after, let's say, recaptures, then this is nighttime again, so you can capture this piece. And somehow you're into the position. You have to be careful though, because this nymph is very vulnerable, and let's say if you play something like vizier to d6, And now you can run into some shenanigans here, and after this push, where do you put the nymph? It seems to be trapped here. So maybe you have to put the chomp on d2, and after, let's say, this move, then you treat the nymph on d2. But that doesn't solve the problem of this dryad being trapped here. So unfortunately here after bolt e1 and pawn to c6, first this defense with the djinn, this lamp, and also this attacks the dryad, so you have to do something. Here in the position we have dryad to c4, which is tried, and after pawn to b5 captures. Now the dryad sacrifices itself on e7, uncastling the king. But to get the full advantage of this, you have to get the attack, and that is not that simple here. We have a pawn to b4 kicking the lamp that goes to b8, so okay. And now we have pawn to d4 trying to strike in the center. We have pawn captures and a chomp captures. Here, I think as this is daytime again, I would capture with this chomp, maybe, and try to get into this position, try to get some nice squares, and maybe go here, try to get the dryad into the way, I don't know, make something with your pieces. This piece is not doing anything for now on the board, so chomp captures, d4 is played. Okay, maybe the idea is to push here. In that case this is a good idea, but you have to concretize this. We have vizier to e7, which is played, and now we have pawn to e5. Maybe too soon. First decide to push on f4, and then you'll be able to put that here and push, and you would get a nice constructor. But CommanderXar was a little too quick, and after pawn to e5, now the tension arises. We have lamp to h7, and here you can't even push here. That seems interesting, but this lamp does defend that, so that doesn't work. So bolt to e2 is played, and here be careful, because the bolt on the daytime can go through the pieces to move and capture. You see that it can go here. So I guess the threat is to go here, but this is very simply defended, not even defended, I guess. Lamp to a6 does the job, because after go here, if you capture, there's captures, and you can't capture because now this is the night time. So you would be even magical, and if you take with this, the quality is not yours. So here after lamp to e6, taking the pawn, we have dryad jumps to a5, so taking a tempo over the djinn. The djinn decides to go to b8, and now it has the pressure over this pawn. So the dryad goes now to f4. Here, if you can try to get it here, because this is very scary. We have vizier slides to c7, and now here, why? Because it bounces on the bounce of the board, so it goes here. So very interesting. We have bolt to e1, defending the pawn. Here, I mean, the pawn is defended this way because there's night time, but you have to be sure that the chomp doesn't move. So maybe bolt to e1 prepares the chomp to move further into the position. But now we have sphinx to e8, and now it has again some pressure. So we have chomp to f3 defending, we have king to g8, and now a nymph to d3. So the mandrakes try to replace themselves. That begins to be very interesting here. Now we have sphinx to e6, which is played at yeah, and now I guess the idea is to try to slide the djinn and put the other sphinx into the game. We have nymph to f5, which is played, and here for me this is the first mistake of the game, because this can be very easily countered with sphinx to e5. And now, can you take this? Not of course, because this is taken back. So with this double threat here, you would be forced to retreat the nymph here, and then maybe the sphinx can try to strike and exchange, and there'll be up of material here. And as there's no big piece in the way, maybe the game can continue here, and maybe you can put the djinn into the way. So here in this position instead we have djinn to f8, and okay, the game continues, and the nymph goes back to d3. We have now sphinx to e8, which is played, and now you have to be very careful because this is daytime. Maybe you were thinking that this was ending. No, because this is nighttime, so this is going to go here and be captured. But here, because this is daytime on this position on move 26, now you have to be careful because this is hanging. And CommanderXar didn't see it and played chomp to e4. So now the djinn captures on f4. And you're down 5 points of material, and okay, this begins to cost little here. So in the game we have chomp captures d6, yeah, this can be played. If you capture here, maybe there's a lot of things to go, and then after this captures, yeah, I don't know. But instead, Chong captures d6, so even more passive, and now we have the very subtle Vizier captures, Bull captures, Sphinx captures, Pawn captures, and Lamb captures b4. And now you can't capture with this, else first this is going to be captured by the Jin, but even though there's this move, and this is not very cool here. So you don't want this to happen here in the game. You can even get the sacrifice heal, but here that doesn't work because after this you don't have the range, and even if you had the range, this is captured via this. So with this, okay, you can't capture this, else this is going to be captured by the Jin. But now we have nymph to f1 going back here, and now we have lamb to g4, so trying to get for the checkmate. The only problem is that this is a big blunder, because this is nighttime, so oops, this is taken. And now the genies are down 3 points of material, and the position is dead losing here. There's a lot of things attacked here, this and this. Very simple way to defend is to play a nymph to c6, only way. Here you would play, for example, nymph to d4 here, but here then you can put this here. I don't think you really can put that here, because now I see this move, and nymph to c5, and now this attacks here via this and this attack, so maybe that would be defended this way. But now you can have this move, and this is a threat, so then there's captures, and now there is a pawn matching forward, and maybe you get better in the position. Or maybe you let the thing happen, so after this, and this, maybe you just push forward and threat to make a queen, and then if there's this on the way, maybe you can trick your opponent. I don't know, I have to calculate all the lines, but this seems very winning here in the position. So instead in the game we have lamb to f6, so it allows the other lamb to be captured by the bull, and now we have sphinx to e4, and I don't see the idea here, because this can be just captured, and after captures, there's nothing. So okay, we have a king to f8, and it turns into nymph to e7 check, king to g8, nymph takes d7, and you're right dead. Here we have pawn to c5 and captures here, but let me show you a deadly move. This is pawn to e5. You have nothing to do. Let's say you move here, then I have nymph to e8 check, king to h7, nymph to g6 check. Let's say king to g8, that also works. Then maybe nymph to e8 with check, and the game would continue on and on and on. But one day maybe the king would decide to move here, and if he decides to move here, then the very simple pawn to f7 is checkmate. You can't go here because this is the night time, so that would slide here. So if you want something even more deadly, you can be very passive. And after pawn to e5, let's say you go here, then you can play a nymph to f7 check, king to h8, pawn to g6, king to h7, and then you just push a pawn, and then they're dead, and they're just committing themselves to be checkmated. But maybe I have to check with the game, maybe that would be stalemate. So this is maybe the time where you decide to put this here, and after this you decide to go for a check, and after let's say they're on here, you let the position be as it is, and after let's say they move, this is nighttime, and then you checkmate with this. So I don't know. In the game there's captures, go here, mega bold, and now we have king to e7. And here you have to be very precise how to checkmate. With the very simple move nymph to e8 with check. Here the king is forced to run, then you go up with the bull to d6. Here you have only one square, which is king to f5, and now do you have the finisher? Okay, so I hope you find the move, which is nymph to g6, and after this you play, I guess, this, and this is winning. I'm even wondering, is there a faster line? Let me see. Go here. Yeah, here the king is forced to run. Let me see if there's faster here. I'm not sure. I see this move, but that doesn't work. I see this move, but that doesn't work. Yeah, maybe this is the way to finish. So maybe you finish this way and you checkmate the other way, but I prefer this. But instead, in the position, I also wonder if there's something better to finish here. Let me get again the position here. So after this, you're forced to run here, that's for sure. If you go here, that doesn't quite work because there's this move happening on the board and the king can try to hide, right? So maybe you get here, I don't know. This is nighttime, I don't see a way for the Mandrake, so after this, excuse me, I'm just following around here. The king to f6, go here. I mean, you have several moves here. No, you have only this move. Oh, this is maybe this? Yeah, and this, you have to deal with this again. And I don't see the continuation here. So yeah, this thing is the way to go. And then this is mate. Okay, so here in the game we have bull to d7, king to e6. And now do you have the move to finish here? This is fun this time. Knif to d5 check, king to f6, bull to f7 check, king to g6, knif to f5 is checkmate. And this is in this position on move 33 that CommanderXar equalizes with Alexander. So congratulations. So this is the end of this video, I hope you liked it. We're going to see each other next time for another encounter on this round 3 of the Matches Neura tournament. See you then, bye.